As a registered nurse, I've seen abuses with TennCare, and I think TennCare is a microcosm of what could potentially happen if Obamacare does indeed become law of the land. I've witnessed abuses of TennCare through fraudulent prescriptions, over-prescription of narcotics, neglect of children due to getting prescriptions for Tylenol or ibuprofen rather than buying it over the counter. As a college student, I would help patients to their car, and I would be putting them in $40,000 and $50,000 Cadillac Escalades while I drove my old beat-up Corolla to work. And I'm not materialistic. I wasn't mad about that. It's just the fact that they would spend their money on other things rather than healthcare like I do. I believe the federal government intruding upon any sort of private business or private sector is dangerous, and for any sort of business to flourish, it has to be allowed to be open and free, and market creates demand, and if there's demand for lower healthcare or demand for alternatives, it'll happen freely through the market. That's why you should be able to shop over state lines for different healthcare programs. Some of the problems and some of the reasons people should be concerned about what's going on the surface it sounds good that poor people who need healthcare will get healthcare, but it's not good at all. It's a redistribution of wealth, and it's also a fine for maybe young people who don't need a healthcare or who would rather pay cash for their sicknesses or illnesses. If you don't have under this new Obamacare bill, if you don't subscribe to their insurance policy, if you don't get one, you can be fined or even thrown in jail. Recently, the IRS has purchased more shotguns for a certain division that goes around enforcing tax collections. So if you take a step back and look at this objectively, we're becoming more of a police state. Our federal government is becoming more intrusive, and normal people like me who just want to be left alone, and I'm a nurse, so I serve the sick, and I go home and I love my wife and I love my children, and I just want to live my life out here in Tennessee. But I don't want to be forced to buy some product I don't want. I don't want to be taxed to death, and I don't want to spend my wealth on people who just live off the government's teeth. And I'll help them. I'll do anything for them. It's a misconception that if you go to an emergency room, you'll be turned away if you don't have the right insurance. It's not true at all. Anyone can walk off the street and go into an ER and get a total workup. I don't see what kind of insurance you have at all. I don't care. I treat you the same whether you're, Lamar Alexander or a homeless person off the street. My heart is to serve, and I try to be a servant leader like Jesus was. And I just hope by being here today that some people have read this